Aloha, everyone. This is Tamara McKay with Red Time Stories. I am the founder and host of Red Time Stories. I'm really excited that you'll be joining us and following up on future broadcasts that we will be having. This is our second episode, and I'm really excited to take this further. Right now, we're in the season here in Hawaii for the Hawaii Republican Party, and elections are coming up on May 6th for state chair positions, not just the state chair, but the vice chair positions, as well as secretary and treasurer. And we have a couple guests on today who will be running for those prime positions. We will have Sheryl Bieler, who is running for vice chair of coalitions, and later we will have Dan Johnson, who is running for the treasurer positions. And it seems like it's going to be quite a competition. With Red Time Stories, we're going to be bringing you stories and bringing some truth to the stories that you may be having questions about. Also, we are going to be doing street talkers, not just here in Hawaii, but from places from all over the United States. And some of my traveling, I will have guests from near and far. So without further ado, let's go ahead and bring on our first guest, Sheryl Bieler. Again, she is living on Oahu and lives in Honolulu County. She is running for the vice chair of coalitions. Hi, Sheryl. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, Tamara. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and start. Why don't you tell the people out there a little bit about yourself?
So I have lived on the islands for 46 years. I have 5 children. I worked construction for 20 years. I worked in the restaurant business for 20 years. And I became politically active 4 years ago. And it's something that I have become very passionate about, especially protecting the children, which is pretty much where I tend to go most of the time. And I decided that I'm going to run for vice chair of coalitions because of there are different reasons. First of all, our party needs help. We need the right people to step up. We need people who have the right contacts, the right connections, and the right capabilities to create an active party and a happy party, and to find more people that we can register. We need to register more people. The more people that we register, the more chances that we have of finding a candidate for our next elections.
Mm-hmm.
And the more people that we register means that our votes might actually count. We are more red than blue. And
Right.
people just we need to find them. We need to reach out to them. There's so many that have been disenfranchised because of what's been going on, what happened in the 2022 elections, previously what happened in the 2020 elections. And they're there. We just have to find them again. And so
I know that you have been really active with various organizations, and like I know that there's a women's group, and there's also Jessica Priya, who you've been close with and getting involved in her organizations. Do you have a lot of people who are willing to work with you to help bring people together for the common good and the platforms that maybe we have alike?
So that's the whole idea of coalitions, is finding like-minded people.
Mm-hmm.
Look, not all coalitions that we get involved with will be on board with us all of the time.
Mm-hmm.
But all of the coalitions that I plan to hook up with will be on board with us some of the time.
Well, I know you've been involved quite a bit in the community. I've seen some of the things that you have organized. Maybe you could share with the people some of the huge, just the really poignant events that you have helped organize. And it's not just on Oahu. I know that you are a big part in several events that also included the neighbor islands. Can you tell how you were able to do that and how successful they were?
Sure. Okay, so of course I did help Maui GOP. I'm not sure that I did a lot of getting her here, but I helped get things together on the island so that the event would be successful. Maui GOP also was able to bring Scott Pressler and was kind enough to offer them to HRP. But then, Tamara, you yourself offered him to me and asked if I would like to do an event with that. And that was absolutely such a successful event that we did at the Blaisdell. And it was so much fun. As a matter of fact, Scott Pressler just endorsed me. So that's like super, super cool. I mean, here he is, the man that does the registration just endorsed me. So I'm like really happy about that. I can start back in 2020 really quickly. I promoted, organized, and coordinated 180 Trump rallies on Oahu. You know, that brought in that is actually what created the Republican Party that we are today, as far as the Patriots, because we really never knew that we were out there, you know, and people were like, I can't believe there's Republicans here. So that was really cool. And that was great. I've led many convoys. I led the Stand with Israel convoy. We did the Freedom Convoy recently, which was with the truckers that I organized on this island. It was a state event, but I did Oahu. And that had about 100 cars on it. I did, I have to go back and think, there's so many of them right now. Back the Blue event, where 3 of our officers were charged in a shooting that was good. It was a self-defense issue. Stood on the lines for weeks, for months on end, with SHOPO and ILWU and the fire department and HPD itself. So there's been many events that I've done. Mark Meckler was brought here on Conventions of States. I am the event coordinator for the state of Hawaii, which I'm really proud of. And we were able to bring Mark Meckler here, and we did that event. There's many things. I'd like to maybe not share all of them with everybody right now and save some of them for the convention speech.
Okay. You did mention Scott Pressler, and now he's becoming a really prominent figure within the community, especially in the conservative community. But for those who don't know Scott Pressler, do you want to tell the people who he is? Because that's really a big endorsement, because he's a huge activist. So if you want to just let people know what he's been doing and accomplishing and why that's a big deal.
So Scott actually came to light when he started cleaning up parts of San Francisco, I think it was, where he was like, this is disgusting. And they brought in empty trailers and started cleaning up the streets and everything. And then he became very active in registering people to the Republican Party. And he would go from state to state and speak at the Republican Party offices and at certain conventions and events that they had, training us on how to register people, what to look for, the advantage list especially, which, if you're not familiar with, it's a list that comes out that allows us to see if you're a left or if you're a right or if you're in the middle type of a voter, and that allows you to knock on certain doors instead of wasting your time to try and register more people to the party, because that is what the base of the party is. That is what we are about, is to register people to the party, because without those votes, it doesn't matter. And without getting those people into office, it doesn't matter either. So Scott goes around the country and talks to all the different candidates and different Republican parties statewide, and teaches you how to go about registering people to the party. So
yeah, he's I love Scott Pressler. He's such an inspiration. He puts so much passion, love, and energy into everything he does with his cleanup, and having him and spend so much time over here and what he did for us. He assisted us in the beach cleanup. He went over to the neighbor islands, and I know we really enjoyed having him here last year. I know that he's primarily worked in the state of Florida and Virginia, and he likes to go into counties and focus on where it's red, and works very hard in in flipping those counties, I'm sorry, that from blue to red, because this is how important saving our country is, with his passion and drive. And now he's being known nationally. He's going all over where there are key races, and he is just working hard with boots on the ground. He has no fear. He's not afraid to get his hands dirty, and he just goes out there door knocking and also doing a lot of cleanup within the neighborhoods. So I really admire him and his passion. I know that if Hermit Dillon was to win, she had mentioned that she wanted to bring him aboard her administration too for the RNC. So that says a lot about Scott as well. And so to have somebody like that who has that much drive and passion endorses you, I think that is a huge compliment and a lot of credit to you and what he may see in your ambitions and your drive. So what is there something that maybe Scott does that inspires you that you can take with you if you won this particular seat?
The no fear. You can't be afraid to do this. You have to be able to get out there and do it. And I think, and he touched on a really important thing, and it was communication. We have to be able to speak to everybody, no matter if you're Republican or Democrat. And you have to find that perfect way to talk to people. And it's something that I heard recently, well, not too far back, that I'd like to share. So you could come up against somebody who's a Democrat, and you're trying to talk to them, and they're like, well, why should I? And I think something that Scott might say is very similar to this is like, okay, so why do you have a Sam's Club card, and why do you have a Costco card? You have that because you have opportunity to get different things. Exactly. Sam's Club has great snacks, but Costco has great meat. So you have a choice. And if you can open that door and let them see that you have a choice and that you don't necessarily have to stick with what you've always known, even though you may not like it, then you've planted that seed, and that's a really good first step.
Awesome. So, part of the premise of the show here is also to put out false stories and give people the opportunity, or for us to also share the true side of the story and another side of the story. What is something out there that may be something that is a false story about you that you would like to clear up?
A false story about me.
Mm-hmm. Or a false story in general in relationship to what you're involved with, or even the party. Is there something that you would like people to know, your story?
I don't have anything to hide. I am who I am. And I own everything that I have been through. I get some stuff from some fake names on Instagram, but that means nothing to me, because if we go back and we look there, it's a bogus account. I don't really think that I have too many haters out there. You never know, though. Have you heard something that maybe I should know about?
Well, this is the platform for you to bring your story to the table. So,
okay, all right,
yeah.
Okay. All right, so it's nothing that I hide. So June 23rd makes 8 years that I am clean and sober. Okay.
Congratulations. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And I have nothing to hide about that. I have no shame about that, and I own that. And if somebody ever says anything about that to me, it's like, bring it on, because here I am. So we all make mistakes. We all have issues. We all have problems, but it's a matter of whether or not you're going to clean it up. And I feel like I've paid my dues and I've cleaned it up. And I think that's the only thing that I really have to hide about who I am, or not even hide, but that anybody could really talk stink about me. As long as I mean, that's the truth. Now, if they want to
Mm-hmm.
make up lies about me, about me being part of a group of people who want to destroy the party, well, we've already seen all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's already been exposed, and I'm sure more will be exposed as time goes on. But that's the only thing that I have in my past
Mm-hmm.
that I think I have to ever worry about or have anybody say anything to me about.
Well, 8 years is a huge accomplishment, especially nowadays, since we have a lot of issues with drug and alcohol addiction, along with a lot of other things that we're being faced with in our world. So I think that people should look at that as a strength, because it takes inner strength in order to fight your demons. So we do have, one of the inspirations of doing Red Time Stories is, as a past chair of the Hawaii Republican Party, and the things that I'm also that I've invested in and donating my time as well in national organizations. What, we have challenges all over our country, and it seems we are at such conflict right now here in Hawaii, given that it is a blue state. However, I think that the basis, even the Hawaiians have a conservative value that is similar to the Republican Party, so to speak. But it seems like even recently we have what people call infighting. I don't think it's infighting, really. It's what we are dealing with right now are true conservative patriots that are fighting infiltration and domination, tyranny, and misleading the public. So, with that being said, with people who have infiltrated, and like I said, it's happening nationally as where Democrats or socialistic views are acting as their Republicans, and they're joining through the membership, and they're coming in to take over the party. That's going to be an obstacle for you, as if you do get this seat, and a huge responsibility. What is something that you feel that you can do to help identify these figures and overcome it, so that we can start aligning and bringing our true party ahead?
Well, I think that we've already been able to identify who
Mm-hmm.
they are.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't want to mention names, but there are
No.
people who were part of the party before who resigned, who apparently received money from the Trump campaign, but then told us not to do Trump rallies. And now this person is back on a slate again. And I just am like, my mind is blown away. I'm like, seriously? You bailed on the party and now you're going to come back. I'm very concerned about another person who is planning on running as a treasurer, because as we have seen, and anybody can see if you go to her campaign spending, that she's $18,000 in the red, and this person wants to be our treasurer.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have somebody who's running for the state chair who created a super PAC. And all of these three things together, to me, in my personal opinion, spells money laundering.
Mm. I
Okay,
see.
that's my personal opinion. It may not be true, and I'm not accusing anybody. So, there's my disclosure, but that's my personal opinion. You have somebody who knows nothing about balancing a checkbook, somebody who, I can't. I'm not even going to harp on that. And then we look and we see that there are people on there who, on these slates out here, that know nothing about what it takes to do their position. And
Mm-hmm.
that scares me. It's like, why are you stepping up? Where have you been? Where have you been for the last 4 years that we're fighting all of this? Where have you been for the last 2 years at the state capitol fighting all these bills? And all of a sudden, you're just showing up and you don't really understand what you're doing. So these are people that I have problems with.
Mm-hmm.
These are issues that need to be addressed. And like I said, this is my personal opinion. I'm not making accusations, but it's an opinion that I hold. And it's scary. I have never seen our party behave like it is right now. It's disgusting.
So you do have an opponent that you're running against,
I
right?
have I have two opponents
You
that
have
I'm
two
running.
opponents. Okay, great.
Mhm.
So what do you feel that you for somebody to the delegates that are going to be meeting in Hilo on May 6th, what is it that you can tell these people, these delegates, these voters that why you're the better choice?
Well, to start with, I have 11 different coalitions that I work with actively
Mm-hmm.
that are fighting for our rights and especially for our children's rights. And I'll be explaining more of that in my speech. From what I know about my other opponents, there's no track record. There's nothing there. And, a huge part, the biggest part of coalitions goes all the way back to the districts, and being able to listen and hear what's going on in your district, because that's where we get the people registered to the party at the
Mm-hmm.
beginning. And then, of course, we do other things, which I'm not going to discuss right now. But
Mm-hmm.
we, 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 we need to start to listen and wake up. We need to start to talk to the people who are at the board meetings, who are part of the school, the parent teacher association, and find out what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't think that these other two opponents that I have understand the responsibility and what it really means. This isn't an ego trip, Tamara. This isn't
Mm-hmm.
something that I'm doing for name recognition, because I have that name recognition already. I don't need the Republican Party to do what I do. I will
Mm-hmm.
always do what I do.
Mm-hmm.
But I have children and I have grandchildren here. And I don't ever want them to look at me and say to me, Grandma, all that fighting and all that time that you couldn't see us because you had to do something was for nothing.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Don't make me cry.
Well, I know our Keiki or for those of you who are watching from elsewhere, our children. We all know that our children are very vulnerable right now with everything that's going on, and we're fighting doubly hard. With the transgenderism, the go woke agenda. Are our children safe? Human trafficking. I know here in the state of Hawaii, they really didn't budget. I don't think they budgeted anything for human trafficking here in the state of Hawaii. And we have, Hawaiian families who are having babies and selling them off to traffickers. And it's a reality. And what people tend to forget about Hawaii, as being in the middle of the ocean, they think, oh, we're this teeny tiny thing and we hold 2 electoral votes. But let me tell you, we're of interest strategically to a lot of foreign entities and China, and we hold a military presence here. Let alone the fact that we have a lot of heavy hitters here in Hawaii that people are not aware of that tend to influence what goes on in Hawaii. I mean, we've got Bezos, Zuckerberg, Oprah, Obama, and Monsanto is a huge presence here, and it's very concerning. So, with that being said, do you feel that there is hope, and is the Republican Party still a worthwhile platform in order to make a difference in saving America and the lives and the citizens in the state of Hawaii?
Well, I'm not going to stop fighting.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to stop fighting for this party because I believe with the right leadership, we can become a winning party. We have been a losing party for 60 years. What is wrong with this party? Why? We have to make the change, and we have to open our eyes and say, you know what? What we've been doing isn't working.
Mm-hmm.
So, like Donald Trump said, why not give it a try? What have you got to lose? Try something different.
Right. Now, do
Listen
you,
to the people.
right. Do you honestly think it's about trying something different? Because sometimes I find it hard to believe that 60 years of not winning in a Republican forum cannot be other than something that has been by design. Not even winning some races here and winning some races there. I mean, 60 years of a total slate. I understand that we have a Democratic base and got to change a way of thinking, but do you really think that it's not by design?
I absolutely do. I absolutely do. I can't remember when the Republican Party has done an event that has been open to people. It's always been an inclusive type of deal. Do something, bring in a big name and
Mhm.
open up, excite your base, get the party activated again, because this person's going to tell that person, you know what, that was a really good event. And let's do some more, and let's do some more. It is because the Republican Party here does nothing. They have your email address when they want money from you, but they don't have your email address when they want to do an event. Okay. And when they do an event, it's a closed event. Open it up. Open it up. We are, and you brought this up a little bit earlier about the Hawaiian people. You know, the Hawaiian culture in itself is conservative. The
Mhm.
Filipino culture in itself is conservative. The word Hanai came from not being able to raise that baby that you had. So you Hanai'd that baby out to a family member or to somebody in the community. But abortions were not a thing of the modern Hawaiian. That didn't happen. It didn't happen until probably about 40 years ago, where it became something. And I think that people are afraid of changes here. And if they're the Democratic Party was at one time a good party, we thought
Mhm.
anyway. And that's where most people were. I think they conflate democracy with the word democratic.
Mhm.
And then totally get it all wrong, because we're not a democracy, we're a republic. So
Mhm.
it's all wrong all the way around. And if you can reach them and talk to them, and I believe that there can be a change made. I absolutely do believe that. But it's only going to be made when there's honesty. And this party, as we know right now, is as corrupt as it gets. And yes, I'm saying it. We saw
Mhm.
all the videos. I know what's going on. Those emails are being passed around all over the place. I mean, they're just like everybody knows what's going on.
Mhm.
Okay. It's no secret.
Mhm.
The reason Diamond Garcia was appointed chair when he was appointed chair, because if I'm not mistaken, I believe you nominated some people months ago and that was never addressed. So the reason that Diamond Garcia was appointed chair, and they invited every legislature and every auxiliary there to vote, which they never come before anyway, was to make sure that he got in that chair, because they were afraid of you, because they know that you know what's going on. So in that case, then Diamond was able to appoint more people that he knew only through the legislature. These two acts are violations of the House Ethic Code. It's not only that, but it was all done to make sure that they got the votes that they needed. And
Mm.
that is as corrupt as you can get. And anybody can look it up under the House Ethics violation. I think it's 304A and 304B or C. Okay.
So,
You can't be any more corrupt than that.
right. Well, we're coming up at the end of your segment. So, I'm going to give you a few seconds to make a closing statement, and if you could also give contact information of where people can find you and reach out to you. But before I go ahead and turn you over for your closing remarks, I just wanted to congratulate you on your endorsement with Scott Pressler, and I wish you lots of luck in your race. Stay strong, stay with God, and stay positive. The floor is yours.
Thanks, Tamara. So, guys, I'm asking for you to vote for me because it's something that I'm passionate about. It's something that I feel we need. I have children here. I have grandchildren here. You have children. You have grandchildren here. And the fight is for them. So if you need to reach out to me, you can reach out to me at my email, Sheryl Bieler, SherylBieler, IN808 Hawaii at Gmail. You can find me on Facebook. You can messenger me. You can find me on my Instagram. I'm all over the place. I'm easy to reach. Call me, reach out to me. I'll be more than glad to answer any questions that you guys have.
Right on. Awesome. And thank you. Now I'd like to hear, thank you. I'd like to hear a little bit from our sponsor, Be Nourished, the most amazing honey products you can find on Maui. Aloha.
Honey. It's one of the greatest gifts to man. With millions of wildflowers in every bottle, the nourishing power of honey is still yet to be fully discovered. Be Nourished Healing Products combines healing ingredients from around the planet to the purest honey from the island of Maui to bring magic to your taste buds. The best honey from the most beautiful place to nourish your body, mind, and soul. From our hearts to yours, be nourished.
Aloha, and we're back. I have to say that I finally got a jar of the dragon fruit honey, I believe it was, and it is amazing on hot bagels. So please support them. They're a fabulous family. They have a new baby. Support their efforts. Visit their website and buy their products. And let us hear about it too. Our next guest that we have here on Red Time Stories is Dan Johnson. He ran for a House seat here in the Maui County in District 12. And he has now put his hat in the ring also for a very important role in the Maui County, in the Hawaii Republican Party for the state treasurer position. So at this time, I'd like to welcome Dan Johnson onto Red Time Stories.
Hey, Tamara.
Aloha.
Yeah, thanks. How's it going?
Good. It's like, carpooling with Dan.
Why not?
Yeah.
I work in Kihei and I got to get back up country, so I figured it'd be easier just to pull over somewhere.
Right. Well, awesome. So we just had Sheryl Bieler on, who is running for the state chair of coalitions. And so I'm really grateful that you could come on and join us as well. And this is a big job. And when we were talking to you about taking this, and we were super excited because we know you, and that you already have a couple people who will be supporting you for your team. So maybe you could tell the audience a little bit about yourself, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah. So for those of you who don't know me, as the introduction said, I ran for state legislature for House District 12 upcountry last year. And I was born and raised in Maui, though. I've lived here my whole life, different parts. Grew up in Kihei, been upcountry for the past 7 years now. So I've been working as a project manager for contractors, and I've went to school at UH Manoa. Self-funded my way all the way through school. Was raised with a very financial conscious mindset. So anyway, I chose finance as my major, and got out from Manoa and got into contracting actually through finance. I started in accounting with a contractor, and kind of worked my way into project management and project finance. So that comes to financing agreements, different sorts of bonding, and everything related to construction finance. Anyway, so that's what I've been doing for the past 7 years after I got out of school. And as I, you know, actually, before I even get into all of that stuff, I think the part that makes us human and the part that makes us fun is who we are. So for myself, yeah, born and raised here. I've got a wife that also raised here. We've got 2 kids. I got a 6-year-old and a 4-year-old, and my little boy and my little girl are the center of my world, and taking care of them and looking forward to their future and the ability to stay in Hawaii and not be pushed out like so many friends that I've seen growing up. As those of us who've been here for long enough have seen that happen. It's a very difficult state to live in by the way it's run. And that's part of the reason that spurred me to run for office, in addition to the stupid stuff that we did in response to COVID. But anyway, now looking at governance with what we do have, it's about stewardship. So the party here, as you and Sheryl were just talking for the past little bit there, our party is not that it's not that strong. It's not in a good condition. We're not in a good state so that we can better advance our principles and values. And I think that's leading to our failure across the board to get conservative politicians elected. Yes, we win some here and there in some very conservative areas that have, it's inevitable we'll get some victories, but we shouldn't be happy about having 6 legislators out of 51. We shouldn't be happy with 2 senators out of 25. And yeah, there's times to recognize progress, and there's times to be cheerful for getting some seats. But honestly, if you're accepting a 30% grade in school, it's still an F. An F is still an F. You know what I mean? Even if you had a 25% before, that's not acceptable. So anyway, the part of the reason that I'm running for the treasurer is my background in finance, and also some of the issues that you guys were talking about before coming onto this segment. I think that we could definitely use somebody in the treasurer position who knows finance, has worked in finance, and also has a heart for individuals, and is not willing to join on with all the globalist agendas and take money in a certain way just because they feel that might be necessary. So, and I think that the grassroots movement is going to be much more important coming up here.
I agree. Definitely have to focus on the grassroots movement. I mean, we have to start moving ahead, and it's the people who have to start taking charge. The tyranny and the top rule is definitely leading us in a direction that we may not have any return solutions from. So, running for the state treasurer, what are some of the things that you would focus on first?
Yeah, it's kind of a unknown, obscured vision of what's actually going on there. So I don't know. It'd be very important to get in there and see exactly what the state of things are. Look at the books, see where our donor rolls are coming from, our typical trends, and try to make corrective action for that. So yeah, like in the 5 minutes or so before the end of the last discussion, I could hear you talking about, we have the ability to know where all of our donors are when we want to ask for money, and we can reach all of our delegates. But I think we can have a little more, thought put into how we're fundraising, where we're fundraising, and, also make sure that everything is up to code so that we're not getting into any ethics violations and the obvious stuff like any kind of inappropriate behavior financially, if there's anything going on there that needs to be cleaned up.
What I like is the fact that you also ran for office, so you are familiar with the ongoings and the processes of the campaign spending commission, and you have submitted your books are like up to speed. There's no issues with them, no complaints. So I know that that's really helpful. Let me ask your opinion about something. A lot of counties in the United States are separate from the state. They're like their own entities within it, just just like the states within the federal government, and they really follow their own bylaws and their constitutions. How do you feel, just from a financial aspect, of the counties being autonomous and independent with their own bank accounts?
Yeah, I'd support that. That's certainly something that I think needs to happen, because more individual stewardship and responsibility would put more, you know, incentive for people to grow it if they see what they're doing, instead of just, being a part of a club. More so actually creating their own entity, more or less, under one.
Mm-hmm.
There has to be layers of oversight and responsibility as well. Accountability things, more like sharing each other's books. If it's within the state, then maybe the state would have the ability to be able to see the lower layers, but nonetheless they're still managed independently.
Mm-hmm. Guide, mostly
Yeah,
guide.
guidelines.
Yeah, yeah, it's the guidelines. Um, do you have some people who are willing to help you get the ball rolling? Because from what I see and have heard, that there might be some challenges and some cleanup that needs to be done. So will you have a team that's going to support you in accomplishing some tasks?
Yeah, there's a couple individuals that have already expressed they'd be able to volunteer, and my wife is a bookkeeper herself too.
Well,
So
that's a bonus.
um, yeah, so I've always got a second set of eyes if needed.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, obviously those kinds of things would need to be clarified in the bylaws, what the privileges of the position would be, and then amended if needed.
How important is it to you to build the base and the strength of the Republican Party right now?
If we're not united, we're crumbling. And the past few years, I've just seen nothing but, uh, you know, contention, to say that, put it lightly, between several entities within the party, state party, and the counties, and all of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, there just needs to be unity, because we are a blue state. That's known, and that's
Mm-hmm.
how it's been. The trend's been for a while. And we have a base of conservatives here. We have a base of Republicans, and we're not going to be any good if that base is divided and fighting. So we got to be more united than they are, because even within the Democrats, there's factions of them here. There's the extreme socialist loonies, and then there's like the corporate sellout Democrats, and then there's just the straight up self-interested ones, and then they have their own little factions going on, I'm sure, too. But we as conservatives need to gather together so that we can have the best impact with the platforms that we have.
Mm-hmm. So, knowing that treasure is a huge responsibility, how do you feel that you could be involved in and influence positive change within the party?
Um, for the first step is making sure that we're on board with all of the appropriate codes, and getting the books in order and all of that stuff. The job of managing the party's finance,
Mm-hmm.
putting us in a position so we're not getting fines, we're not forgetting filings, we're not failing anywhere. That's unacceptable. If we have our donors donating to us, and then we're getting fines because we're not doing things properly, we're just wasting their money and their efforts. So having a professional and organized finance system is going to be important. And then beyond that, to elaborate on growing the party, I think that the treasurer obviously is a very important position,
Mm-hmm.
more administrative in nature, but also high level, you could kind of look at it like the CFO of the Hawaii Republican
Mm-hmm.
Party in a corporate sense. I'm coming from private sector, right? So what you can do is you can create better and more strategic relationships with those donors as well, so that you're not, um, you know, like I said, you're making sure that make the image that you're being the best steward with the investment that they're placing in you for the conservative movement, and
Mm-hmm.
just be the financial voice to assure that all of that is correct.
How do you feel about the body as a whole having a voice in our expenditures, and how that and how we divvy up how we spend our money?
Do you have a example to point to, or is more of an
Well,
illustration
it
what?
well it generally speaking, that the body, especially the state body, is supposed to come together at least quarterly and talk about budgets and ideas and how the spending is done. Do you agree with that, or do you feel that it's just the executive team that should have the final say so on how our finances are spent?
Oh, well, obviously we live in a position of being Republicans and a republic. We elect officials to represent our interest and do an act on our behalf. So, are you talking about like just a straight up vote between the delegates, or
Well,
I'm
do
just
you
trying
do
to understand
you
your
do
question.
you feel that the body, of delegates and members should at least have a say so in how the money is spent and managed?
Oh, yeah, I mean, ultimately that accountability comes down to who's elected to do what. But yeah, more or less, um, is it like a polling kind of situation that you're asking about?
Well,
Or
I
are
know
you
that the
asking if,
no, yeah. Well,
because,
I know
oh,
that the
sorry.
no, it's okay. It's the chair and the treasurer are supposed to work hand in hand in presenting a budget, and it goes before the body for approval. And sometimes it just, I think too, maybe I want to get towards of, do you feel that transparency also is important to the members of the body within the Republican organization?
Yeah, absolutely. The budget should be available to those in the party in positions of delegates, different executive branches, and the counties as well. But a minute ago, we were talking about decentralizing it to an
Mm-hmm.
extent. So at a certain point, um, it would be distributed back down through the counties by apportionment, I would imagine. Something could work similar to how because we have a problem with Oahu being, the center of all commerce and focus, and as a consequence, it's also the center of all the funding for the party, and the
Mm-hmm.
outer islands are forgotten completely. I've seen that as a candidate myself, where it seemed like there was no resources or support or coordination across the front for anyone outside of Oahu. And as a consequence, do we have any elected Republicans outside of Oahu? But yeah, so I mean, something along the lines of a budget that accurately and fairly distributes the state funds by district and per capita of people. So I don't think that even to say Oahu has, you know, 75% of our population. I think it's greater than 75% of the funds are
Mm-hmm.
spent there. It's more like 95.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So yeah, at least make it proportional at the very least, if not strategically within the executive committee and by vote of the delegates. If we see an area that's lacking that could use a little more support, you can move those things around. It doesn't need to be a locked
Okay.
um, kind of thing.
Awesome. And so you have a couple people that you are running against. What what makes you a better candidate for people to vote for over your competitors?
Again, I don't think I see myself as running against anyone. I am putting myself forward as a qualified candidate who has experience, who has education in finance, and is willing to put in the effort to lead and correct those things. I think I'll just speak for myself rather than saying anything against any one individual.
Right.
I believe in leading first, having the foresight to see what needs to be done and seeing it through. And a lot of that has to do with having knowledge of the mechanics and the actual nuts and bolts of operating, putting together financial statements and stuff like that, which I'm very familiar with and I've done frequently and do regularly. And yeah, so beyond the skills level, being qualified by skills, I also think that I'm qualified by um, my personal experience as far as the private sector and how I've worked on millions of dollars of projects, managed $1 million budgets, tens of millions of dollars, and you know, accuracy is important. Being a perfectionist is a personal character of mine, which I think is very important for
Mm-hmm.
someone looking at finance, right? You don't want to be sloppy with that kind of stuff.
Right.
Um, yeah, and beyond that, coming back to a character perspective, I'm stepping forward to do this because it needs to be done, and I think that I'm
Right.
qualified to do it. I'm not doing it for obviously any kind of position or power or you know way that you can assert yourself to gain more power or influence. That's not my character. Honestly, I would be fine to you know just not do it, to be honest with with the perspective of being in the public figure. But more or less, I think that it needs to be done by someone who's humble, and it takes away humility to say something like that. So it's this weird principle of stoicism that I'm trying to balance here. But more or less, I'm trying to show my heart that I'm not doing this for ego. I'm not doing this for power. I'm not doing this for anything other than cleaning up the party and better advancing and stewarding what we've been given. Because I think that stewardship is something incredibly important in every aspect of our daily life, to take care of what we've been given and use those conservative principles that we have, financial responsibility, and better advance our party through those things. So I guess in a nutshell, I am uniquely qualified because I have a background in finance, formal education. I work in finance, and I'm not doing this for any other reason than it needs to be done. I can do it.
Uh, well, I know knowing you that you I have faith in you, and I'm super happy that you're stepping up. I just want to know also, because it is an important role, you are going to have some influence, and I just wanted to see how you can use that influence in trying to unify the party, the internal structure of the party from the grassroots up. What kind of role do you think you could help play in that to mend relationships as well?
Yeah. Outside of the finance mechanisms and all
Mm-hmm.
the other sorts of cleanups that we were talking about might be necessary, uh, building more transparency within the party and the executive committee, the county committees and delegates as a whole, providing more accurate reports that can be delivered with confidence. I don't know the current status of the treasurer and the financial reporting. I haven't seen any of that, but I think that it would be very important to have CPA audited financials for the party. Uh, from myself in the private sector, if we're looking at a client, a customer, or somebody that's trying to get something financed, if they submit just their own CPAs, sorry, their own like CFOs financials or their president's certification that it's reviewed, um, that's good and that's great. But ultimately, if you have third party reviewed financials, it provides you more credibility and more clout. And sometimes you can get a better interest rate or different sort of factors like that. That's a huge deal with bonding. Anything taking it seriously is getting peer review and third party review. So
Mm-hmm.
obviously, I would be doing all the preparation of everything, but I don't know if we currently have third party reviewed financials by a CPA. So yes, so we'll have accountability as far as that goes, and that will kind of flesh out any beyond clerical errors or you know, I can't think of another word other than you know, mishandling of funds that might occur. You can avoid that, get rid of that. So that would provide people with confidence in the party. And then in addition to just having the treasurer position and an executive voting position, I can tell you that as an individual, I am a grassroots conservative, if you will. What I would rather define myself as is a patriot, somebody who loves individual freedom, liberty, and personal responsibility. And the things that I support are more akin to what enables somebody to grow by their own choices. So when you take that into the world of politics today, we're looking at things with globalists, and one huge thing I'm not sure how many people are aware of in the financial world is environmental, social, and governance scores, ESG scores. Almost every large corporation that I interact in business with has an employee that is an ESG something or other, director of ESG or ESG consultant or something like that. If you go onto every major financial institution, unfortunately, like Bank of Hawaii, you go look. I challenge you, look at their tabs about them. You can see ESG, and this is something that's being forced upon us by globalists, similar to China's social credit score, where they're going to be evaluating people based on these choices. So that's if you drive an EV, you have better points. If you drive a diesel truck, you get negative points. If you got solar, you get more points. If you don't, you know what I mean? If you do the things that they want you to do. Yeah. And then the social, do you support the organizations that the left props up, or do you support the NRA? We're going to take points away from you. Unfortunately, this is something that's being forced not just upon, individual businesses. It's across the board. Everybody that you do business with. So sometimes the larger corporations will have an ESG requirement, like if, say, Starbucks, let's just throw a name out there. If you sell coffee beans to Starbucks, you have to comply with their requirements. So if you're a farmer and you buy seed all the way down the whole level, and what I'm getting at with this is this stuff is happening across the board. And as a treasurer, if someone was coming to me talking about how we had to do things financially within that scheme or within that bucket of evaluation, I would not comply with that. I think that first and foremost, everybody needs to push back against this. If you're a small business owner,
absolutely,
don't comply with what they're telling you to do. It might be hard sometimes to make financial decisions like that. So if you're a small business that serves one of these box stores and they're giving you some requirements like this, it might be a serious consideration to think about not having them as a customer. I think the more of us that unite against this kind of globalist push, the more effect we'll have in pushing back on them, because the truth of it is there are way more of us than there are of them, and our compliance and submission is what allows them to have the power that we give them.
Absolutely. Well, we're coming up on the end of your segment, and I wanted to give you the last few seconds to give some words of encouragement to get not only people to vote for you, but to have faith again in the Republican Party, and also to provide some contact information of how people can get a hold of you and ask you more questions if we hadn't addressed it here. And before I go, I just wanted to thank you so much for giving me your time and to talk about that, and to also be willing to step up and donate your time and your family's involvement to get involved and make a difference in the Republican Party here in the state of Hawaii.
Yeah, thanks for the time and having me on. Appreciate all of you for tuning in. And if you want to reach out to me, you can contact me. My email is danjohnson, DANJOHNSON, for the number Hawaii, spelled out HAWAII. So it's danjohnson4hawaii@gmail.com. phone number is 808-250-0020. Give me a call. Any question you have, if you want to pick my brain on something I said, or if I said something stupid and you want to ask me why I think that, I can elaborate more. But Instagram tag is the same, Dan Johnson for Hawaii. All that aside, voting for me for treasurer means you're voting for somebody that is qualified, educated, and also you got a patriot that is not going to align with globalists and will push back against agendas that are for some and not for all, and rules that are for they but not for us, and transparency, accountability, and financial liberty.
Awesome. Thank you again, Dan. Thank you so much for joining us. And again, thank you, Sheryl Bieler, for joining us. I just want to thank everyone for tuning in and watching, and click the like, follow us every Thursday at 3 o'clock. This is your time. This is your time to tell your story. Thank you again for joining Red Time Stories. Mahalo and aloha.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight, o'er the ramparts we watch, words so gallantly stream. And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.